When I spend time on the internet these days, which, let's be realistic, is very often, these are the types of offers that I consistently see. It can feel really new and futuristic, this huge focus on personalization and customization. Is it something that's come out of this newfound, maybe millennial-ish, selfish desire to prove that we're all unique individuals? I really don't think so. So I actually came up in more of the magazine journalism world, and you can just look to publications for examples of how we've had really specialized content and audiences out there all along. So the American Philatelist, which, if you didn't know, is for people who are really intense about stamp collecting, has existed since 1887. The Model Railroader magazine, for people who are really enthusiastic about tiny trains, has existed since 1934. And my absolute personal favorite, Cat Fancy, which, if it's not clear from the name, is about cats, has existed since the 1960s. So specialized content and audiences and the desire for that is not at all new. It's really, as we've heard today, all about how technology is now allowing us to create and deliver that content faster and easier than we ever have before. Of the magazines that I mentioned, actually the only one that's not currently in print regularly is Cat Fancy, when apparently in 2014, people discovered that the internet is a faster and more efficient way to view cat photos. Who knew? So more than 90% of organizations, according to Forrester Research, say that they're trying to personalize their customer experience, which is great, but only 40% of shoppers say that the offers that they're getting from retailers are actually relevant to them. So there's a big gap there, and this ability to personalize things and give people what's relevant to them is far more challenging than you might think. The good news is I have a few steps for you today. And the first step is know yourself. Now, technically, this could probably be written as know your company, but I like know yourself because it sounds a little bit catchier, maybe a little bit more idealistic, which this kind of is. So a lot of us, I think, in this room are thinking of ourselves as B2B or B2C organizations, which is fine. But I'm really here challenging us to think a little bit more from the individual perspective, approach things from more of a B to I viewpoint, which is what people have really come to expect. When you're thinking of things from a B2B or B2C perspective, you're just asking yourself this question of, well, how can we get our consumers or businesses to consume more of our business? It's a somewhat interesting question, but when you're instead thinking through how to talk to individuals, you get to answer the question of, how do I get this individual to have the fullest life possible? It's much more of an interesting thing to consider. So at United, or at any of the airlines here in the room, you could say that we offer flights to a lot of places through our comprehensive route networks. Some networks might be more comprehensive than others, but let's just say that. But if you really think about what we're truly offering to individuals, it's not necessarily that. Instead, it's about getting a college grad to his first real-world job interview safely. Or it's about delivering a heart transplant halfway across the country to someone who really needs it. Or it's about helping a 92-year-old put her feet into the ocean for the very first time. There are stories that go beyond what we think we offer. So in being able to talk to individuals, you have to think through what the real true value is that you're offering to them. If you're not thinking through what you're really giving to people, you're not going to be able to connect with them in a way that's real and a way that's genuine. Part of knowing yourself also kind of comes down to some of what Jonathan was talking about. It's getting the tone right, it's knowing your brand, it's knowing your look, your design, and keeping those things consistent. If you're not, and you're showing off inconsistencies from interaction to interaction or channel to channel, it's really going to create a sense of distrust with people, even if that distrust is subtle. So way back in the day, there was a really good article recently in Strategy and Business about this. Way before even American Philatelist days, you would be in your neighborhood and your businesses that you would go to would be like your neighborhood cobbler or pie maker or iron maker or whatever. And those are people that you knew by name and knew their brand and knew who they were. And in reality, that B to I, connecting with people individually, goes far back older than B to B or B to C. So how can you create that within your company and create that kind of value? Back in the day, you would have to go to this person in your neighborhood because you had no other options. But today, consumers have a wealth of options, so you have to figure out how you're setting yourself apart. So how do you then set yourself apart? This is going back to my journalistic background. Part of it is acting like a journalist. And one thing journalists are really fantastic about doing is instead of just listing a ton of facts at you and hoping you'll parse through them, is they want to uncover the little details that are really important and highlight those instead. So how can you do that? So one product that we love to sell at United is Economy Plus. And there are lots of things you can talk about with Economy Plus. You could talk about how you get extra legroom, or you could talk about how you can get on and off the plane faster, or you can talk about how if you're a Mileage Plus Premier member, you can earn more qualifying dollars with your purchase. Not meant to be an ad for Economy Plus here, I promise. But if I know who you are and you're booking on my channel and I know a little bit about you, can that change how I'm framing the offer? So let's say I know that you are a busy working professional who is traveling to DC and has to finish up a presentation on the plane last minute. How is that going to change what I surface to you? And I'm not saying that person is me in this situation, but if it was, let's just say too that this person is only 5'5" and has short legs. Well, is the benefit of extra legroom that we so often surface going to be that important to me? It's really not. What's important to me is going to be the ability to have enough room in front of me so that I can work on my laptop and get the work done that I need to get done. And I'm going to feel so much more affinity to you for actually solving a real problem that I have rather than just listing a bunch of benefits at me. And it's going to drive my loyalty to you because I feel like you've truly helped me. According to Salesforce, 70% of customers say that an understanding of their individual needs really goes a long way toward driving their loyalty. Also, in terms of thinking like a journalist, it's doing the research and getting with your customers and interviewing them and digging into what's truly important to them and what matters. And so it's not about using stories as a marketing tool and that you're going to use novels as a marketing tool. It's just about thinking through what benefits of your product are really, again, resonating with people. And a good example of someone that did this well is actually not an airline or Apple or Tesla or any of those companies. It's actually Pedialyte. So if you don't know what Pedialyte is, it's kind of like a medicinal liquid that is marketed for parents to give to their kids when they're sick to help them from becoming dehydrated. That's how it's always been marketed. And it's been marketed that way for 50 years. But in 2015, Pedialyte finally decided they were going to a little bit more officially target the adult market. And by the adult market, I mean people who are hungover. So that market has always existed, that problem has always existed, but Abbott Laboratories, the parent company of Pedialyte, was always a little bit shy about targeting that market because hangovers aren't a healthy thing to associate with, obviously. It's fair that they might be a little bit more conservative about marketing there. But when they did that, they really saw their numbers grow, and it was because they were solving a problem and literal headaches that people have. So how can you figure out ways to showcase benefits that have been there all along, but maybe approach them in a different way and uncover those stories? Also, you need to respect creativity and the little details. And respecting creativity doesn't have to be something fluffy or artsy. Don't sense that this is a super fluffy, artsy room. Maybe some of you are, great. But it really can come down to sharing numbers as well. So when I started at United in 2011, some teams were great about sharing just data, behavioral data, or consumer data with the editorial team that I worked with at the time. But some really seemed to think that writers would cry if they saw numbers or something, and it's really unfortunate because when you're breaking down those barriers and finding more efficient ways to share data with the people on your creative teams too, you're allowing opportunities to objectively see what works. You know, everyone loves shorter copy, and shorter copy can be great, but sometimes you'll find that with the right audiences and in the right instances, longer narrative copy is actually going to sell really well. Or you'll find that there are words that you're using internally within your company that people love, but that externally, maybe people don't understand what those words mean, or maybe they understand what they mean, but the words just don't resonate with them. So it's sharing that data in a way that is more broad and not just with people in this room, but with all of the teams that you have outside of this room. And again, just uncovering things you might not have expected. And it also comes down to finding creative ways to use content in channels or instances you might not have thought about. So you can send out an email to a customer reminding them about their flight. And that could be really straightforward and still helpful, but maybe that's going to be a little bit boring. So how can you think through ways to engage your creative teams and think through what would be truly valuable to individuals? Maybe if someone's going to have a long layover in San Francisco, you can talk to them about the latest art exhibit that's going to be in one of the terminals in San Francisco. Maybe you are letting them know where there's an opportunity to breastfeed in one of the family rooms. Maybe you're telling them about the local craft beers that are in a certain section of the airport, all dependent on their needs. If you're hearing from people that they want certain things, you have the opportunity to meet those needs and tell them about it. We always kind of joke about how people say they want to eat healthy on the go. Do you actually see people eating healthy on the go? Not very often. So if people tell you that they want mac and cheese, give them mac and cheese and tell them that you're going to give them mac and cheese. They will be much happier. So overall, I think all of us in this room, we have an obligation to our customers to really give them content that drives value, products that really benefit them. And that's not only going to become the expectation, it's really something that if we don't accept the challenge to do that, and I think we all can. I know it's difficult. It's difficult even from where I am too. If we don't accept that challenge, it's not just that we're going to fall behind. It's that we're really going to miss out on an opportunity to create something that's really great and that really drives true meaning for people.